All right, we're going to give a couple more people a couple of minutes to get on, just to see if we get everybody on. So we'll get started in a couple of minutes, guys. Nick, do you have your microphone on?
Yes, I do, sir.
We're going to read them in a little while into the agenda, into the letters, but just for your records, we do have a letter from Putnam County that has appointed Steve Wygant, and if I pronounce that wrong, I apologize, as an alternate for Putnam County. I do see he's on the phone call, so I just want to make sure you can get him counted as an alternate for Putnam if it becomes necessary. Looking at the other two letters that we have from Sullivan and Ulster, they're not adding anyone. They're just keeping people that would already be there. And I just wanted to put those in so that you had it. There are two other names, Faith Martin and Sarah Baker, also from Putnam, if they happen to sign on, that are alternates from Putnam.
Okay, Faith, I saw Faith was on. What's her last name?
Martin.
Martin, like I'm here.
Common spelling, M-A-R-T-I-N.
And
they've also appointed Sarah Baker, both common spellings, as an alternate for Putnam as well.
Okay, I've got them. I'm just gonna go ahead and put them. I'm gonna just write them in on the roll call sheet.
Okay, I will read them into the minutes later. I just wanted you to have it so in case they became the defining line of whether we have a.
Got it. Got it.
Jones on, we got that echo again.
Sorry. I don't know what it is.
Microphones.
How do you spell, by the way, how do you spell Steve's last name?
Hang on.
W-E-I-G-A-N.
Thank you, sir.
Joan, you're going to have to mute that microphone, please.
Better?
Still an echo, but at least it's real. The other one.
Okay.
Much better. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to bring the Hudson Valley REMSCO meeting for November 18th, 2020 to order. Before I get started, I wanted to take a moment and thank everybody for taking time out of their already busy lives to be with us today. I know everyone is carefully watching what appears to be the second wave of COVID knocking at our doorsteps. Everyone involved in EMS is doing double and triple duties to make sure that everyone stays as safe as possible. This level of stress sometimes leads to frustration. Unfortunately, frustration sometimes leads us to bark or snap at one another, even though we may not always mean it to sound that way. To that end, the meeting of the council must remain civil at all times. Your opinion must and should be heard, but only if the conversation remains respectful and professional. If anyone is unable or unwilling to conduct themselves in a respectful manner, the executive director will mute your ability to speak. If you are muted, your only recourse will be to type your questions or statements into the chat box to the executive director Hughes. Your questions and comments will be reviewed by Mr. Hughes and brought forth for discussion if they offer new information not previously discussed. As the professional leaders each of you are, I'm sure this won't need to occur. Please remember to keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking to the group directly. Thank you. Nick Trio, if you could go through the roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you and good evening, everyone. Starting with Dutchess County, Nicholas Trio is present. Dave Violante.
I'm here.
Thank you. Joan Siebert.
Here.
Tim Murphy. Dee Sagendorf. I thought I saw Dee on earlier.
I also see Tim Murphy on here.
You see Tim there also? Okay, we'll count them then. And Tim Gilnack. Okay, Orange County, Michael Big.
Here.
Thank you. Ben Conquest. Wayne Chan.
Here.
David Grass.
Here.
Israel Knobloch.
Here.
You. Kelly Peichel. Frank Castnight. John Hanson. Putnam County, Robert Cuomo. I thought I saw, did I see Robert on? Okay, I guess not. David Jacobson. Denise Montana. Steve Wigan.
Here.
Okay. Faith Martin.
Here.
Susan Baker.
I believe it's Sarah Baker.
Oh, Sarah Baker. I'm sorry. My apologies. I will make that correction right now. Thank you so much. Move on to Rockland County, Kim Lippis. Nick Rusieski. Tim Egan.
Here.
Desiree Leone.
Here, and I believe I saw Kim on there also.
Okay. If you saw her, then I'll take your word for it. Glenn Albin. Teresa Hamilton. Neil Dayan. BJ Leidner.
Here.
Sullivan County. Bobby Bachman.
Here.
Alex Rao. Neil Meadow. Heidi Stack.
Here.
Mark Strauss. Ulster County, Richard Parrish.
Here.
Kelly Nelson. Tim Mitchell.
Here.
Dorothy Balin. Lisa Servino. Karen Pardini.
Here.
Is there anybody that I missed?
Mark Papish.
But he's not on the roll call list. Now I got to count all over again. Thanks, Dave. 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 18 in attendance, not including the ones that Dave will be reading into the minutes. So we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Nick. We have a quorum and this is an official meeting then. So I appreciate it, everybody. By now, everyone should have received from Karen from the office a copy of the minutes from the September 16th meeting. Does anybody have any corrections, additions, or redactions that need to be made at this time?
This is Rich. I'll make a motion to accept.
I second. Joan Siebert.
Outstanding. We have a motion and a second. We'll move on with the agenda. As you guys have seen, we changed the agenda this evening to allow the Vice President to address the New Windsor expansion of territory status. As I've reclused myself from the issue to ensure the process is fair and without bias, Mr. Parrish is assuming all responsibility. This is an important issue. We wanted the Vice President report to be the first item on the agenda. Rich, if you don't mind, please.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, the New Windsor expansion of territory right now is on hold. We've been asked to address it based on data from the state. That data was committed to be to us by October 15th. We have not received it yet. We did have a conference call with them yesterday. Bill and myself were on the line, and so was Dan and Steve from the state. They are working on it. They're attempting to get it to us as soon as possible, but COVID is, as everybody, it's taking their full attention. But once we get that information, we will call a transportation committee meeting and try to expedite that through and hopefully get it before our February meeting. And if we do, then we will have a special meeting to move it forward. All right. So that's the status of that right now. All right. As of the other thing, as the Vice President got involved with the REMAC, there was a request to the MACE team to survey all the hospitals to understand what their hospital services are and update this for the air methods so they know what services a hospital has. So at the last meeting of the MACE team, that was brought to them, and I am starting to get that information in. And once it's completed, I'll update the REMAC on that. Right. As it was stated in the minutes, Dave has asked me to shepherd the committees. So I would appreciate the committees when you have a meeting to let me know. Just so we keep a handle on what's moving forward. All right. Thank you.
Rich, what is the MACE team, and is it MACE?
It's the Lower Hudson Valley Mutual Aid Coordinating Entity and consists of 31 hospitals in the Lower Hudson Valley. And we do have a response team that will go to a hospital if they have a disaster.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, it's back to you, Dave.
All right, if nobody has any other questions for Rich, then I'll move on to the President's report. The Executive Committee met via Zoom on November 12th. Our agenda had 2 items to discuss. One was the current status of the New Windsor expansion of territory and our regional budget. Obviously, Mr. Parrish brought the Executive Committee up to date with the CON. Denise, Bill, and myself discussed with the Executive Committee the current status of the program agency budget. The committee reviewed in detail what we would recommend to the council to keep the program agency funded should monies not arrive in a timely fashion. Since that meeting, we've seen monies move forward through the system with the first check scheduled to be cleared this Friday. Please understand that the monies are starting to be approved, are being issued at only 80% of the invoices. We still don't know the status of the other 20% and will or if it'll be released. Bill nor have I had any correspondence with the state indicating that 20%. There was a core sponsors meeting today where Director Greenberg kind of elaborated that even he is still in the dark as to what's going to happen with that 20%. What's important for us to remember is that those monies requested for the state are not a request of what we want to spend, but on the contrary, what we've already spent. So as you can imagine, we are spending more than we're going to be reimbursed for. This caused the office to carefully watch what they're spending and started the discussion of options, which we're up to, and the potential of including renegotiating contractual agreements that we already have in place. Again, with a 20% cut in the state and no clear indication as to when or if those monies are going to be released, we need to start rethinking what we're doing. So we started simply looking at what were the options and what we needed to do. Everybody agreed that we need to start pressuring the state officials sooner than later to get them to understand we are already underfunded and that we will not survive if this money is not paid to the program agencies and or the agencies that are relying on that money. So those are really the two big things that were discussed inside the executive committee. Again, we laid out a potential plan of, what the steps could and would be if we needed to make cuts. And again, as it looks right now, it appears that some of the monies are being pushed through the process. Bill can discuss that in a little greater detail when he gets to his report. But it was important for us to bring the executive committee up to speed with, the potentials that if this money wasn't going to be released, and again, we did this back on the 12th, not knowing what was going to happen today, what we would do ifs. When we budgeted out the money for the program agency, we were looking at conservatively, if we started, delaying some bills that would need to be paid, including rent and things like that, Bill and Denise felt comfortable that we could move about 120 days into the future and still stay solvent. We don't have any assets and we don't have any collateral, so it's not like we can go to the bank or to a lending institution and apply for a line of credit. Everything we do comes out of the state and it's only on reimbursement. So we started making some hard decisions and hopefully we won't have to come to that, but we will definitely keep everybody in the loop and keep you in the know of what's happening and what's going on as it's happening. But again, the biggest thing that we can do right now is for you to reach out to your local and state representatives and make it very clear to them that any kind of funding cuts or not reimbursing 100% of the expenses that have already been paid or already been expensed out will drive the regional program agency into bankruptcy. And that's not anything anybody wants to have. So please, I'm sure that Albie, if he has a chance to get on this call, will bring that up in greater detail. The office did receive letters from, as I said to you before, from Sullivan, Putnam, and Ulster counties. The letter from Putnam County addressed their new executive board for the EMS Council. They have appointed Casey Quake as the president, David Jacobson as a vice president, Faith Martin as their secretary, and Denise Montana as their treasurer. In addition, they requested in writing that Faith Martin be added to their delegates as an alternate. Ms. Sarah Baker was added to as an alternate, and Steve Wigan was added as an alternate, as we discussed earlier. So again, that was in writing from Casey, their new president. We received correspondence from Sullivan County, from Neil Madoff, that wanted to continue Mark Strauss as their alternate for Sullivan County, and they have removed Mr. Michael Bruce as an alternate, and they will be looking for another alternate, and as soon as they've secured one, they will be sending that up. From Ulster County, we received correspondence from their secretary, Tim Mitzel, who was removing Ms. Lisa Servino as an alternate, as a delegate to the council. She has moved out of the county and resigned her position with the council. They will be appointing someone in their January 2021 meeting for appointment as a replacement delegate into that. So that was in the delegates. Everybody should have received the 2021 Hudson Valley HVREMSCO meeting dates. If you didn't, make sure you're jotting them down. We'll be meeting at 1900, 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. That'll include February 17th, May 19th, September 15th, and December 15th, all in the 2021 calendar years. Does anybody have any questions for me?
What was that? What was that December date?
The December date would be December 15th, 2021, sir.
Okay, and one other question for Sullivan. I have removing Michael Bruce and adding and renewing who? I missed something there.
So for Sullivan County, they have requested that Mark Strauss continue as their alternate for Sullivan County.
Okay,
Michael Bruce, alternate, has been removed, and they will be appointing someone at their next regular meeting.
okay. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome, sir. Any other questions for me? Hearing none, we'll ask that Bill read Denise's report, as she couldn't be with us this evening for the treasurer's report.
Good evening, everybody. Glad everybody is here. We wrote 26 checks worth $15,153.15 from our checkbook. We transferred $35,000 into our payroll system. Unfortunately, as Dave was mentioning, we did not have any deposits to make in our account this quarter. So we have 4 outstanding vouchers for the state. One at $63,812, another one at $6,109, one for $54,108, and one for $4,588, which gives us a total outstanding balance with the state of $128,618. If we get 80% on payment of that, we'll get about $102,895. Hopefully that will happen. We're working with the people in the finance department, and hopefully they'll push through our vouchers. Our conference and education account, we did voucher for the CIU that we had last week, and we vouchered $705 for that. So that's another outstanding voucher for us. Currently in our program agency account, we have $51,794. Our education account, we have $48,757. And in the payroll account, we have $13,888, which is a total of $114,441. Compared to the last meeting that we had, which was 9/10, we had $159,502. So we are down a substantial amount of money. Hopefully the next voucher will come in. That's the treasurer.
Have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Motion.
And
I'll second.
a second. Nick, you got that? All right, Bill, I hate to say it, but that brings you up next for the regional office staff report, sir.
Okay. We've been running a little shy. Jeff has been out sick. I'm glad to see him here tonight, but he should be back full swing at the end of the month. We've been working under our new established normal, which means everybody coming in is tested for temperature, has to wear a mask, and has to sign in. All our committee meetings that we've been having are all on Zoom, and we've been taking all the precautions that we need to take in the office. The Air Medical Service Committee meets right before the REMAC, and at the last several meetings, we've been working on the Air Medical Services Operations Guide. We've worked on the updates. It's part of what Rich was talking about with the MACE to get the services of each hospital listed in there. And we expect to have a draft out by the end of the year. All of our contracts have been put into the state, and at this point, as of today, because as of yesterday, they were not approved by the Bureau of EMS, but they have been approved by the Bureau of EMS, and we're now waiting for the Department of Health to process the contract. They can't pay a voucher unless our contract is in place. So even though we vouched for the first quarter contract, it hasn't been in place as of yet. So as soon as it gets processed through Grants Gateway, it will be in place, and we should be able to at least get on the financial system with the vouchers. Dave talked about the vouchers, the payments, and the late. The only other thing I wanted to add to that is a joint letter from all the program agencies was written to Director Greenberg in September, explaining the reasons why the 80-20 payment model creates an unstable financial burden on all the program agencies and would lead to their insolvency, closure, and closure of some of the program agencies. And I say some because some are supported by different organizations. Some are supported by educational institutions and colleges and universities. Others are supported by hospitals and hospital systems. The rest of us are independent 503Cs like we are here. So we're not as supported as they are financially. Again, at the educational meeting, it was mentioned that all course sponsors and all agencies should have membership to HCS, the Health Commerce System. And to get that, you have to get in touch with the office, and you will do section A of the instructions, and we will do section B, and then you'll have access to the Health Commerce System. At the last meeting, we talked about ambulances ALS upgrade. That upgrade has been approved for ALS by the Bureau of VMS, and they are operating in the region right now. The Bureau of VMS was supposedly working on revising the ALS upgrade policy, but there has been no update on that since they mentioned that they would be doing it. The office and the Bureau have received multiple questions and complaints regarding the requirements for EMS agencies to comply with reopening guidance. Please, each business or entity, including those that have been designated as essential under Empire State Development Essential Business Guidance, must develop a written safety plan outlining how its workplace will prevent the spread of corona. The business may fill out the template that's offered, or you may have your own. The plan doesn't need to be submitted to the state, but it needs to be available if the DOH comes in. And that the reason I'm mentioning that is because we've gotten a lot of calls from agencies asking if they have to comply because they're an essential service. So yes, you have to comply with all the social distancing, and you have to be wearing your mask if you can't social distance. So if you're in a vehicle where you can't get 6 feet apart, you have to have your mask on, and as even though you are an essential service. So if anybody needs a copy of those plans or a template for the plan, let me know and I can get it to you. And the plan should be posted in your facility. And if the Department of Health comes in to do an inspection, we should be able to produce the plan. And from what I understand, in some segments where there's been blatant ignorance of the plan, they have actually had some fines associated to it. The only thing I have is, COVID is still among us and still gaining strength right now. So continue to be vigilant with your PPE, your decontamination efforts, and any other precautionary actions that can be taken. Make sure your crews are following all the procedures and guidelines for the organization has put forth, and ensure that they're using the tools that you gave them. And then monitor both the mental and physical health of your staff. As you know, from the last surge of COVID, it can be very strenuous on everybody. And if you need help, please ask for help. Don't let anybody get complacent within our industry, right? That's my report.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill? All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the QA/QI report. Mr. Crutcher.
Okay, stand by while I bring up another screen. Is that big enough for everybody to see?
Can you bring it up a little bit, a tad? Yeah, too much. Okay.
How's that?
It's readable, Jeff.
Okay, because I can enlarge it and scroll down.
That's good.
I'll start from the top. I mean, the basic information on the top is the general demographics, en route, on scene, transport time, average transfer time, turnaround time. Turnaround time is something that we really started to look at during the height of COVID, just to see how much more time on task we were taking. And really not terribly significant when you average it out. And call volume is 150,000, give or take, more so now. Last I updated this was the end of October before I went out. The items that I've been paying particular attention to is the New York State KPI for chest pain. I've been looking at 12 lead in particular. The national standard for obtaining a 12 lead is 10 minutes or less. We can see by the graphic there that overall we could stand to improve. And digging through the data, a lot of the greater than 20 minutes were interfacility transports, that type of call. So I don't really put an awful lot of stock in that total number. That's very explainable. The other 15 to 20 minute is kind of what I'm looking at, is to why it took the provider that long to recognize that a 12 lead needed to be done. And rather than just going on those times and those numbers, I go back and I take a look at the narrative to see how it's rationalized. And really, for the most part, the 10 to 20 minute categories, if you read the narrative, it's pretty well explained, but we still need to work on that. If we have a call that fits the description of why we should be doing a 12 lead, we should be getting it quicker. The second graphic that goes along with that is the aspirin administration. We can see that 8% of it's being done by BLS. And far more often than not, BLS is on the scene quickly or quicker in a lot of cases than ALS. And what I found is there's not always a good explanation within the narrative as to why they held off on giving aspirin. I saw one narrative that explained why they didn't give it, and that was because the patient's blood pressure was too high. That chart was sent back to that agency involved, and the provider was counseled on reading the protocol and learning the whys behind it. I've also found in doing the deep dive into the data that there were some occasions where aspirin was given where it wasn't really indicated. Sometimes it was a checkbox that was clicked inadvertently because the narrative didn't match the checkbox. And it just goes back to providers need to check their work before they hit submit. And as we continue into the chest pain portion of this, we'll be digging a little bit deeper into the narratives and hopefully seeing better narratives in 2021. I took a look at the Narcan use, something to see if there was any indication that it peaked during the height of COVID, and it didn't. What I did note was it dipped significantly from last August to this August, and there's no real good explanation for that. It just is what it is. Fairly interesting, but again, we don't try to assign a cause to the numbers. We just pull the numbers and display them. The second portion of what I've been doing with the charting is I took a look at call volumes within 3-hour intervals for each county, primarily to see when they peaked and on what day they peaked. We know anecdotally, every provider will tell you that their busiest day is whatever they decide it is, but that's not always the case. And it's just interesting to see when they peak, both the bracket of hours that they peak and the days that they peak. And not all counties are created the same. And a little bit further breakdown, we can see the comparisons and exactly where they fall. And the last page of this took a look at patient refusals by counties and by month, and resuscitation, attempted cardiac arrest totals, and no real surprise, they peaked with COVID. So that's a lot of what I've been doing with the data per se, and taking a deep look into the general demographics of what we have available to us, and taking a look at how each agency can benefit from this type of data. We broke it out. Actually, we didn't break it out. We just broke it down by county. But we could break that out by agency and take a look at a specific agency's call volumes in that same time frame. The report's created. It's a matter of changing one or two parameters. It's not a difficult process at this point. The report's written. And updating it is pretty much an automatic thing. But there's so much data that we have available to us now that we didn't have a year ago. And a lot of what we can look at can affect how we do our job on a daily basis. It can guide us as to what kind of education we need to get back out to the providers. And not surprisingly, it's not the stroke lecture that's offered every month. A lot of it is back to the very basics and a simple review of the protocols. If we have people that are not giving aspirin because of blood pressure, then we've missed something along the lines with the basic education. Any questions?
No
Okay.
questions, Jeff, but great reports, and it's got some good data there. And like I put in the chat box, can we share these?
I've got
at
that
least
as
with the
a
committee.
Yeah, I've got that right now as a PDF. I can send that out to the group if they want it. The way I have the dashboard set up, everything is in there as far as data, and it really, I have a problem with agencies being able to compare agencies in the same county if they are competitors at any level. So I want to be able to do that without the bias, and the easiest way to do that is just to send it as a PDF.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It shouldn't be used to compare one agency against the other.
Exactly. It's not, this data isn't meant to be a comparison. It's not a competition. It's how do we improve the system with what we have?
Mhm.
And the only way that we can improve the system is to look at the data that builds the system.
Yeah, that's what the state's looking at. So, we need to get on board with it.
Well, yeah, in the state, they're always here to help, but we don't know when or where.
Right. Okay, good job. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, just to kind of echo Jeff's message, the important thing for us to remember that are sitting on this meeting here now, we all represent counties that we are appointed to come in and voice their concerns. Equally, we're expected to take this information and bring it back to those committees and to those councils so that they can disseminate that information back to the agencies that should all be represented on your individual councils. For some of the agencies that are represented, they have people that are doing this data mining. For some of the other agencies, they don't have that luxury or don't have that financial position to be able to do that kind of data mining. And the ability of Jeff and the rest of the program agency team is what makes it so interesting to be able to push that back to them and be able to help them help themselves. And that's really what this data is designed to do. It's not to point out shortcomings. Yes, it will do that every once in a while, but when you point out those shortcomings, we also look for ways to improve ourselves and our systems and our responses. So please take these messages back to your individual counties and make sure that you're sharing it with them and have them reach out to Jeff and go from there. Jeff, excellent report. Nice job. And get that knee, get back to health here so you can keep running around the block with us.
Will do.
We'll move on to committee reports. Mr. Violante, you're up with the training committee first, sir.
Great, thank you. We just had a CIU that had, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere around about 80 people or so on there. We did it by Zoom. Much thanks to Dave, Nelson, Bernadette, and Kelly for all of their work. We also had representatives from the state on there to answer questions. It was very well received by a lot of people. The state was happy that we did the CIU and rolled it out. So I think we're going to look at doing more that way in the future. On to CLI and CIC. We've tried to hold a CLI class this fall. We typically are looking at doing a CLI in the fall, CIC in the spring, but the state is revamping both of those programs and would not authorize anybody to do them. They're hoping to have them at least online as well, starting in the spring for both of those kinds of programs. So more on that as those get rolled out and finished by the state. Remember that the Vital Signs Academy is still available for everybody. They have CMEs that'll count for core and non-core for BLS and ALS providers every day of the week. And typically Ms. Valerie Osga sends those out and they get forwarded out. If anybody is not getting that schedule, let us know and we'll be sure that it does get sent out from either the region or the training committee in some way, shape, or form out to any of the counties and individuals and agencies who would like it. Today, there was a I don't want to say impromptu, but it was a last-minute schedule course sponsorship meeting from the state because the numbers are going up all around us. And so as we start getting towards the thresholds of percentages around the state, they came up with some pretty good ideas. And what they're asking some course sponsors to do is to do the testing, the practical skills exam testing far earlier so that can be put out of the way, before everybody goes on break and is not able to come back. So if you're a course sponsorship that was not on that call, you'd like some more information, reach out to me, please, and I'm happy to provide you with some more information about that. To that end, for course sponsors, some of the renewals are being pushed out until May of next year and extended. The skills exam sheets, we're going to continue to use the current ones. The state hasn't completely developed the new ones. When the new ones come out, then the state wants us to use those as soon as they're published, and they'll also hopefully have an admin manual and PSE manual to go with them. And finally, to that end, the paramedic PSC will only be national registry in the future here, unless there's no way you can do it by the end of the year, in which case they will take a state exam for the PSC for the paramedic program only. But in any event, if there's any problems with any of those, reach out to the state. They're more than happy to be accommodating for the way anybody's putting their programs together, teaching students, getting the exams done, and doing the state testing. The PSE, or I think it's PSI actually, is the group with the state testing, and that's been going okay. It's been a lot better. If anybody has any problems, again, please let the state know. Remember that the state is only printing cards for original providers that have come through at the moment. If you need to check on a credential for anybody, please go to the state site and you can check it there. If anybody has any problems or questions with that, please reach out and I'm happy to help you out.
All right, David, thank you. Any questions for David? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to Dr. Papish and the REMAC report.
Thanks, Dave. At the REMAC, there was we didn't talk about a lot of things, or we talked a lot of things, but no major changes. Um, I think the BLS supraglottic airway trial program is going to CMAC for discussion. There was a little bit of talk about the stroke protocol. In the interim, since the last REMAC meeting, I think I mentioned this at the last REMSCO meeting, but the Westchester REMAC and the Hudson Valley REMAC, we're going to have a joint meeting to talk about picking a stroke destination tool or a stroke severity scoring tool that would suit both of us. Since there's a lot of overlap between the two areas as to providers that work in both areas. So this would just facilitate if we could both come up with a solution. And it sounds like most people are migrating towards one of two different tools in a state. And so the master plan being that at a certain point, once we resolve that and classify exactly what every facility is capable of doing, we'll have a go live with a policy in which patients presenting with significant strokes or strokes of significant enough severity that would be mandated to go if it was within a reasonable amount of time as far as destination time to a endovascular capable center. And that's the sort of, I mean, the state wants us to be doing that anyway, and I think they're going to seal the deal sometime next year and regardless, but we like to move forward in that arena. So there's going to be a meeting scheduled shortly to talk about that, and hopefully at the next REMAC meeting we'll be able to come to a conclusion in early January. That was one of the topics that we talked about. Dave, Bill, if I'm missing anything big, let me know. The only other thing I wanted to mention was sort of everybody's been talking about COVID's back, and it's true. One thing that anecdotally I'm seeing a lot of in the ED is crews coming in their summer attire, in the sense that over the summer, the volume was low, the COVID volume was low, and a lot of people switched to wearing simple face masks as opposed to N95s. And I don't know whether there was probably never a policy change. In my emergency room, lots of people were only wearing simple face masks over the summer instead of N95s, even though we mandated that they should be wearing N95s regardless. But I still see people doing that. And we've recently had cardiac arrests coming from nursing homes that everybody was not wearing an N95 mask. And sure enough, I mean, that patient did have COVID, but it happens quite a lot. It's happening much more than anybody's happy with, both within the emergency department and with pre-hospital crews coming in, not wearing any N95. So everybody just wear an N95 or tell your crews. Like it's kind of a no-brainer at this point. The numbers are going up. We've had plenty of EMS providers get COVID. It's just put the mask on. It's a little uncomfortable, but you get used to it. So that's all I wanted to just see if you guys could drive that home, because it makes a huge difference as far as exposure, a simple face mask versus an N95 in the back of a confined ambulance.
Along those lines, what Dr. Pappers was saying with the COVIDs, social distancing. There was a case at the Holyoke, Mass hospital where 6 people sat down to have a meal. 1 was positive. The other 5 came down positive. You got to maintain the social distancing. You got to wash your hands. You got to keep those masks on. And
yeah,
we got to set the example.
Rich, you're absolutely right. There's many more cases than just that one. In the hospital, we've been sending memorandums throughout the departments because throughout the hospital, we have break rooms, and everybody, goes into the break room and takes their masks off because they're very happy that they're not in a patient room or at risk. You're still at risk. And the same thing obviously goes for your core or your station, wherever you are. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully we've just got a couple months more of this before we'll all get magical shots and we'll be back to normal.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pappas. Is there anything you wanted to add from either the protocol or helicopter committees you thought was relevant?
I think the only thing to add from the protocol committee is that the state is most definitely looking at suggestions sent in by providers to the collaborative protocol group. And there's a group of physicians that look at those, sort of look at the efficacy of the position of the suggestion, whether it's feasible or not. And, we'll bring those forward to the entire group and then to CMAC. So keep the suggestions coming in. There's some amazing and great suggestions by a lot of providers around the state to improve the collaborative protocols, and it's sort of adding our own voice to it as well as a living document. So that is happening, and it does happen, and it's happening on a regular basis. So keep those going in.
Beautiful. Thank you, David. All right, let's move on. There are two people that have called in and I can't see their names. Glenn Alvin, are you on for the Transportation Committee? Or Bill, do you have a report for him?
I spoke with him recently, but the only thing with the Transportation Committee, we're working on the expansion of territory on New Windsor. There's nothing else that we have outstanding. So most of the committee's time has been spent on that. We've reviewed all of the past records and we're waiting for the new stuff to come in from the state. That's it.
All right, very good. Thank you. For the other two agenda items, we're looking for chairs, ladies and gentlemen. So again, for those of you that are not participating in a committee, we need a chair and a committee for both the Public Information and Education and our Policies and Procedure Committee. We did discuss at the last meeting potentially finding a way to change our bylaws that potentially could incorporate our Policies and Procedure Committee with the Protocol Committee. That would obviously require a bylaw change to figure out how to do that. I know Albie and his team were looking at that, and we're going to kind of deep dive it to see where that could potentially go, which clearly takes us to Mr. Bachman and the Legislative and Bylaws Committee. Sir.
Good evening, Mr. President, and all of my fellow Americans and also ambulance drivers. I received from our office a set of proposed bylaws for additions and changes to our existing bylaws. The office was very, very diligent in making it easy for the committee by color coding changes, deletions, and additions. In short notice, I did send out the bylaws to the Bylaws Committee. 50% of our committee did get back to me with their review. So as soon as the committee gets back to me in totality, what I will do then, if we all agree with the changes that the office would like to see made, then I will print up a final copy for everybody and have the office distribute them to you. So we should see that probably within a week or two, and I'll get it to the office. As Dave mentioned before, with the New York State budget shortfall, that with the monies that we wish we could receive, there's no doubt that the program agency is going to suffer here. And Dave mentioned before that it's very important that you reach out to your local and state representatives. Right now, it might be a little difficult because we still don't have final numbers from the elections. So I'll give it a little time until we find out who our reps really are. If I can just relay some info from the United New York Ambulance Network, and Dave will be able to relate to this. Our lobbyist up there informed us that should Mr. Biden become the president of the United States, he has a very close relationship with Mr. Schumer. Regardless of your opinions of Mr. Schumer, pro or con, he has been quite friendly to the ambulance agencies here in the state of New York. So we're hoping that if everybody is due diligent in reaching out to their representatives once we know finally who they are, I don't think it would hurt us as a region also to reach out to Mr. Schumer and tell him how we feel about the money, and hopefully he can come through. So we urge you to speak to your local representatives, those that you know that you have, and wait for those that will be coming, and tell them the importance of the monies for our program agency. If we don't operate, it's catastrophic. So we urge you to reach out to them. Two important things coming from the proposed changes to the bylaws. Number one is the membership. Looks like there's a little alteration that the office is looking for additions from the medical community, not just EMS. So that's one major change. And the other thing is, as Dave mentioned just a few minutes ago, we have openings where the counties are not putting in committee people. The one thing that the new bylaws will do is to enforce the bylaws. And inside the bylaws, it talks about the responsibility of the county organizations and our delegates and alternates, so that you will see in the new bylaws. And we're urging everybody to accept the bylaws. I find them to be quite acceptable, and we must do our job, which we haven't. We've been very, very complacent with our responsibilities as a delegate and a committee member. So those are the two things that you'll see when I submit to you. With that, that's my report, sir.
Thank you, Albie. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bachman? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Egan, any report for community paramedicine, sir? Is Tim still with us?
Mr. President, if I can just make note, I don't know if Neil Meadow called you, because I see that he was on from Sullivan County.
I did not, thank you. I will assume Tim had to drop off for pressing business.
Can you hear me?
Tim is on.
Tim is here.
Okay. Sorry about that. So again, good evening, everybody. As everyone knows, in January, we're going to be in a new legislative session up in Albany. We don't know yet whether or not there'll be any new community paramedicine legislation for the 21-22 season. But I know that I'll be urging our legislators to take up some new legislation to try and enable us to be able to do that a little easier. With that said, our program is still moving forward. We're negotiating for next year again. We've had a better than 50% increase in our numbers with regard to the visits that we're doing the last 3 months over the first part of the year, partly due to COVID, partly because of changes in the healthcare systems and the hospitals being unable to afford what they've been doing in the past. And I know that other programs throughout the lower Hudson Valley have been moving forward as well. Other than that, I don't really have anything new with regard to community paramedicine, just keeping an eye on legislation.
All right, Tim, thank you. Any questions for Tim? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to State EMS Council. Mr. Violante, you have anything to add from previous?
No, CMAX HVREMSCO is December 8th and 9th. It's going to be all online on Zoom. So there'll be more to come after that.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, so we'll move into the old business agenda. Anthony, I see you're on for the Hudson Valley EMS Directions and EMS Committee. Sir.
Good evening. At the last meeting, I believed I called out for more volunteers, and I didn't get anybody. So I'm still short on horses, and we are still kind of in a similar place than we were since I last reported in September.
Totally understandable, Anthony. We'll get to it in just a half a second because I've already discussed the alternates. But Mr. Mitzel is going to be, speaking next about the tag that we put together as far as a vision for 2025. I'm starting to wonder if maybe your two groups would be served of working cohesively together or potentially working together. And I'll kind of leave that up to you and Tim to discuss if maybe your visions and plans are falling into tune and in line with each other. And I would encourage you two to kind of get together after the meeting and see if maybe we can combine this all into one and maybe get some more people that are excited about, moving us forward, both at the REMAC and the regional council level, because I believe your committee was originated and formed as a result of REMAC and some of the things that the protocol committee had put out and tried to see how we could move things forward. So I think you guys are running right parallel with each other, but I'll leave that up to you to kind of discuss and see where you guys want to go.
Sure, I'll definitely give that a shot. I will say that my alternative was to try to refocus the group on maybe on just maybe one or two issues as opposed to the menu of issues that were produced from the EMS summit. And that may be more comparable to the folks that I have. But if there's definitely some consolidation of energy, I will definitely look forward to that. Something I'll be said in terms of the public elected officials was also part of what we were doing or looking at as well. So, I mean, there's definitely intersects from different places. And it's not just this region too. There's intersects with what's going on the federal level and, what NEMSCO says and stuff like that. So I'm more than happy to consolidate energy because I only have so much energy.
Totally understandable, sir. I think everybody's running on that same just above E mark with everything going on. But, again, some really talented people all kind of sharing ideas might be able to share ideas and move things a little bit forward. So I thank you for everything you guys are working on. I know Sharon was working pretty close with you and then she had the audacity to retire. I don't know how dare she, but those are the things we all look forward to. So thank you for your team's work.
Thank you.
Moving right along, Mr. Mitzel in your tag with the Vision 2025 for the region.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hello, everybody. So thank you to Karen who put this out this morning. I apologize. I did do a brief report. When I thought about this, Dave and I had a conversation. I made some notes, and then I really wanted to wrap my head around what we were doing or what was asked of me. So I put this together. I actually read Article 30 in all its honored glory. And if you read it, I'm hoping I at least have a rudimentary understanding. I'm going to defer to my committee member, Dave Violante, on that, who has a much more nuanced view of the state level stuff than I do. But what I thought was striking to me, and by the way, I'm totally down for working with Anthony and combining efforts and moving in the same direction. I think that's a phenomenal idea. But do we really have a mission statement? I couldn't find one. Really, it says we serve the 6-county region, the Hudson Valley, the counties, and the coordinate emergency medical services. It's over 300,000 calls a year. Okay, that's pretty broad. I just doing a quick Google search. Susquehanna, they broke it down pretty dramatically. I don't necessarily know if we do that, but we need a mission and vision statement, I think, that points us in the correct direction. And I don't think it's, some internet research. I really would like somebody on the committee who can either knows Google surveys or SurveyMonkey. I understand them, but very minimally. And what do we need to do? Get to the end users, the agencies themselves, and everybody on this committee. What does everybody else on this committee think? I know there's a tremendous amount more experience than I have, and a tremendous amount of talent on this committee. And I want voices, and I don't have the idea, and this may bridge into Anthony. I don't have anybody from Orange, Putnam, Rockland, or Sullivan as yet. So that was going to be my plea tonight, but maybe we can work on that. I have Karen Pardini from Ulster, and I have Dave Violante from Dutchess, who I'm thrilled to have both of them. So let's start making this happen.
All right, Tim, thank you. I do appreciate it. But first, does anybody have any questions for Tim?
Which counties do you need reps from, Tim?
I need Orange, Putnam, Rockland, and Sullivan.
Thank you, sir.
I only have Ulster and Dutchess at the moment.
Any other questions for Tim?
Just want to let Tim know I know how to do Google surveys.
All right, Anthony, thank you.
Okay, brother, we're in. We're doing this.
So I think that what we've heard so far, you know, but listening to both Anthony, to Tim, to Albie, is that we need people to participate. And I really and truly believe that, you know, this organization will succeed with the talented individuals that are out there, only when we find the extra 37 seconds of free time to be able to dedicate to it. With that being said, each county has their delegates, each county has their alternates. This is really where you heard Albie kind of leaning towards, where the motivation is not to browbeat people into, hey, you got to do this or else. It's really more of a motivating factor. The only way we succeed is when we work together as a team. And the only way to succeed as a team is to have team members, right? We can't move the football down the field if it's the two kickers at each end looking at each other going, what now? So again, that's really the motivation behind this global kind of thinking of all the pieces and aspects. But what I'd really like to see people do and try and motivate people to do is go back to your county councils, put that message out. We really want the representation. We want to hear your voices. We want to hear your ideas. We want to hear, how do we make the system as a whole better? When we make the system better, then the individual agencies succeed, and all of their trials and tribulations and things that are holding them up allow them to become successful, and then we succeed as a state and a nation and everything together. All right, I'll get off my soapbox. Nobody wants to hear it.
Hey,
All
Dave,
right.
Dave, can I just make a quick comment with that? On the EMS summit meeting, some of the members that are on the summit are not necessarily council members, but they do represent areas from their region or from their counties. So it might be not only the people on the council to be members, but maybe some of the counties can appoint other people that are experienced and can participate.
Yeah, I have a couple of Orange County, I believe, and other counties as well. I don't have the names by county, but when I met them, that's what I got. That's the impression I got.
That was kind of my impetus around two-stepping, trying to get Anthony and Tim to kind of slow dance together and see if they could make that work. Because again, it looks like they're both on the same mission statement long-term to try and make sure that our region stays viable and successful in the long term. And I think that that's where everybody's at. So, all right, any other questions for the committees or anything else? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. The floor is open. I'm hearing crickets, and it's 8:10 in the evening. Nobody wants to get off a call that quickly.
I have a quick question. I'm Frank Quintero. I'm one of the ER physicians from Westchester at White Plains Hospital. I represent the REMAC from Westchester. In order to facilitate the information needed for the helicopter committee, can you send me what hospitals have submitted that information that you need? I can submit it to Richard Blackley, and we can get that information rolling for updating the helicopter committee.
Very good. What will
yes, sir. If you send me your email address, I will get it to you.
Perfect. I'll type it in right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Quintero, thank you very much for joining us today. It's good to have a representative from Westchester here with us tonight. Any other new business? Anybody on the call?
Hi, this is Faith Martin from Mahopac Falls.
Hi, Faith. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you? I have a quick question. Myself and a few other members of the department are interested in becoming CICs, and I found national classes online, the National Association of EMS, and they offer a level 1 online CIC course. I'm not sure, does New York State recognize any national courses for CIC?
Well, ironically, Faith, that exact question was asked today at the core sponsors meeting, and I'm going to defer to Mr. Violante, who was on the call, to answer it as a training committee chair. David?
Hi, Faith. Thanks, Dave. Yes, the state does recognize the NAMC Level 1 online course as a course to take in lieu of the state CIC program. You'll still have to do the state bridge for the remainder of some of the components that are not in the NAMC program. The NAMC program is really designed for how to teach, and the state bridge is just some of the state components, regulations, laws, rules, etc., that you'll need to incorporate in your courses. So that's the long answer. The short answer is yes. If you want more information, certainly feel free to reach out to me through the office. That's totally fine. I'll help you out with that.
Dave, is that
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Dave, is that NAMSE?
NAEMSE.
Thank you, sir. I want to make sure to get it right.
Yep. National Association of EMS Educators.
Great. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out more on that. I know you guys are, you said, or we mentioned earlier that there would be some classes in the spring, hopefully. But due to COVID, I figured if we could get some people in sooner and kind of get the ball rolling, that we might as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Faith, welcome to the council. Hopefully that answered your question. There's a bunch of committees that are just waiting for you to become part of. So let us know which one you want to be part of. Send your email off to Karen and at the region, and she'll be happy to get you listed on there. But more importantly, thank you for your time and effort of joining the council, and your participation is going to be well accepted. Thank you very much.
Great, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Not a problem. Any other new business? All right, just before I ask for a motion for adjournment, I'm just going to kind of echo some of the statements that have been said today, this evening. First of all, thank everybody for coming onto the call. Thank you for taking out time out of your busy schedules. I know that we're all busy. More importantly, to echo Dr. Papish, COVID is here. It is not going away. Please be diligent with your crews, with your staff, with your members, to really push, personal responsibility, push the responsibility, out to the other agencies, and take the messages back to your county councils that the only way that we survive this and not have to stand and mourn one of our colleagues, succumbing to this, is to be really proactive and to be diligent to protect yourself. So, in the infamous words of one of my mentors, wash your hands, put on a mask. All right. Otherwise, I have nothing else. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you coming out. Be safe until we meet again.
Good job, Dave.
Thank you.
Everybody be safe. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.